Hello, everyone. Chris from 6 Plus Plus here, and welcome to the final episode of Road to the ITT. In this episode, I am going to be recapping the event itself, letting you know how we went, but specifically focusing on kind of like the pairings process and our thoughts and showing you our matrix for each of the games and that sort of thing, which I think, there aren't many videos out there at the moment which do that. So hopefully, if you're interested in teams and that sort of thing, then this video will be quite helpful. Firstly, I must apologise. It is slightly late. I've just been super ill from the event. I just spent like the first 2 days after the event in bed. I've not really been able to get my head around doing this, so apologies for that. Also, I did say that I would do a video looking at all the teams going, all the top teams going, and looking at their lists before the event. Again, sorry, I was just really ill before the event as well. Um, but yeah, we're here now. So just to recap, this video series is tracking 6 Plus Plus's journey to the international team tournament. We took 3 teams to this event: Alpharius, Omegan, and Legion. This video will be focusing on Alpharius, which was the team that I captained. If you haven't checked out the rest of the videos and you're interested in Teams 40k, definitely check them out. I've done a video on how to pick players for teams, how to pick armies for teams, and then how to prepare for teams as well. But as I said, this one will be focusing on kind of like the pairings and the matrix side of things. So, Alpharius, we played into the Low Rollers game one. So they had Vanguard Marines, they had a Wraith Knight, Wraith Blade Eldari list, they had Awakened Crons, which was a pretty standard list, Monster Mash Demons, they had 4 big lads, and then just a very mixed Grey Knight. So you can see from our matrix, it's pretty healthy, mix of 3s and 4s. I did a bit of practice pairings beforehand. We kind of decided that we were going to start with Dark Angels and then use them to try and take out either Vanguard Marines, Crons, or the Monster Mash Demons, just to make life easier for one of our other pairings. So that was like kind of the game plan. When I did some practice pairings, interestingly, if they started with Eldari, the way it kind of panned out meant that it actually just ended up in 5-3s across the board. So I was like, oh, that didn't feel good, but we still led with Dark Angels, and they led with Demons, which was probably a bit of an issue for them because it meant that we could put our Chaos Space Marines and our Votan into the Demons. The Necrons were now safe, and we got a 4 into their Demons either way. So we were kind of like really happy with that situation. Dark Angels, I've got a really good memory for how my own games go, but remembering the pairing process, it turns out, apart from what I wrote down, I can't really remember that well. So I do apologise for that. But as you can see, Dark Angels took the Vanguard. So we've got 3 there. We've got CSM into Demons, which is a 4, which is a pretty solid win. And then because there are Necrons still out there, our Eldari don't want to play into their Necrons. So therefore, our Eldari goes down. And then they put down Grey Knights. What that led with was, because my Eldar had a choice of Eldar or Necrons, obviously I'm going to choose the mirror. I've put down a 3. I still feel pretty comfortable with it because I've got a meta Eldar list. He's got something a bit different. Our Necrons into their Grey Knights we feel happy with, which means it's our Votan into their Necrons. And this is something we've practiced. Our Votan had beaten the Necrons. We felt it was probably on the upside of a draw, potentially like a 12 or a 13 win, depending on how it played out. This was our Votan players like a mission they don't like. It was Scorched Earth, Dawn of War. But other than so, that might tweak it. But we felt this was more like closer to a 4 than a 3. So overall, we're pretty happy with the pairings. As you can see, we've got no 2s there. We've got 2 3s and we've got 3 4s. So we've won in terms of according to our matrix. So did we get to win the game itself? It turned out to be quite a comfortable win. And this is the thing with pairings: you can pair according to the matrix and what you think the matchup is based on when the player skill is equal. But the reality is, like, these guys were here for more like a good time than a long time, I guess you could say. They were a lovely bunch of guys, but their lists weren't quite fine tuned enough, some of them. So in the end, Dark Angels beat Vanguard 15-5, our CSM 20 over the Demons. I was able to win 18-2 against the Eldar, just because I was able to basically table him. The Votan Echoes was a draw, which was good for further information. And then it turns out Necrons into Grey Knights is good, because it finished 18-2, which gave us an 81-19 win. Um, which is obviously a start you will take all day long. Okay, right. Next up, we draw into Try Hard Wargaming A Team, who are a very, very strong team, and full of really good players. So, as you can see, inevitably your matrix immediately becomes a bit more yellowy than orangey, but we have still got some greens in there. And in terms of this, we actually got off to a really good start. Um, we knew from their previous round that they had started with Tau looking for the light board. I'm like, well, that's fine, because if they do put down Tau, we could put down our CSM and Eldari, and that's a pretty good place. We led with Paul again, Dark Angels. The reason for this is because the one matchup on the Matrix we must avoid at all costs is Dark Angels into Eldari. And so because of that, Paul will go down and he will take whatever else is offered to him, because it's either a 3 or a 4. So they offered him Eldari and Guard, so he took the Guard, and we're like, sweet, that's a 4. Their Tau went down as expected, so we put CSM and Eldari in, and he had just lost 15-5 to Eldari, so therefore he took the CSM this time. Now, and then both teams are in the situation where we know full well that we don't want Eldar into Necrons, so we both put down our Eldar, and then the rest kind of just writes itself. Chaos Knights are into my Eldar. Our Votan is into their Eldar, which, according to the Matrix, is a bit of a we lose out on that one, which means we've got the Necron mirror left, which we at this stage just assume is fine. Necrons into Necrons. They've got Hypercrypt, we've got Awakened Dynasty, but Necrons can't really kill each other, right? So it should be drawish. So according to the Matrix, at this point, we're actually pretty happy. We've got a slight advantage about how things have gone, which is all you can kind of do. But obviously, that can kind of change, can't it? So, how did it actually go down? Well, Paul got off to a terrible start. Basically, because the guard had manticores, Paul started a lot of his chat, and it was purge the foe, which is kill one, kill more. He started a lot of his chaff off the board, which meant that he couldn't score his cards. The cards he drew, he couldn't score for the first 2 turns. So I think at the bottom of 2, he was like 44-12 down, which is obviously not a good position to be in, especially when you're supposed to be looking for a win there. CSM, I think early on, CSM failed a battle shock with some of his curse, which meant he couldn't Nurgle strat them or something, which meant Tau got a free round of shooting into them, which affected that game. In my game into the Chaos Knights Eldar is a really interesting one. I think in the mid tables, it's actually very drawish. I think if both people play reasonably well, it obviously favours the Eldar, but I also think Chaos Knights can go full send, and it can quite easily go wrong for Eldar. As it was, Alex, my opponent, kind of pushed forward some bits, but I was able to deal with it, and he had a bit of a whiff of turn 2. I was able to capitalise on that and then push through. So I won that 15-5. The Votan lost to the Eldari 16-4. I think Tom said he couldn't really score any of his cards, just drew bad cards for the last 2 turns. And so we're actually it's very, very even. All right, it's very, very even. And the problem is the Necron mirror. Turns out that apparently Hypercrypt is stronger than Awakened Dynasty in that matchup. and that match went south for us in a way that none of us were kind of expecting. So that finished 17-3 to their Necrons, which meant we lost 55-45. I think this is one of those games where if other things go our way, it's pretty much a draw. Would we do pairings differently? Well, we would have to completely repair in a different way if we're trying to avoid the Necron mirror. I don't know, maybe you have to go Necrons down first and then Dark Angels or something like that. But yeah, it wasn't great. So I think we're a bit deflated after this game. And I think this is an important aspect of teams 40k is that when you're on your own in a singles and you lose a game and you feel down, it's up to you to pick yourself up. But in teams, you've got four other guys who you are working for and are there to help you, and you can have your huddle, get together and be like, right, no, we're sorting this out. And I think the next team we played probably felt that somewhat. We played against the Northern Old Boys squad, so named Knobs. Delightful. And as you can see, this is probably one of the stronger matrices you would see. They had a lot of different style lists. So you've got you've got some Imperial Knights there. The Necrons was pretty standard. Ultramarines, I think, was Vanguard again. Got World Eaters list. Grey Knights was a generic thing. But yeah, as you can see, we all felt pretty confident at winning. We weren't really worried about drawing. There were a few where we want to avoid. For me personally, as an Eldar player, I know that my winning style is more like 20 points. So I'm never gonna. I quite often put threes for games where I'd feel like I was probably going to win 12-8 or maybe 13-7. I did know that Grey Knights is a bad matchup for Eldar, or a very drawy matchup. Necrons is one that I do want to avoid. And World Eaters I haven't played into before, but can potentially go south, so I'd rather list it as a 2 than a 3 or a 4, because I have seen it go horribly wrong on stream before. But other than that, we could probably pair blind and we just end up with some 4s. So we felt pretty confident. Tom was out for revenge, so we put Tom down first and he took the World Eaters, which got him a 4 in theory. They put down Ultramarines. I think we put down myself and Necrons into that, and they chose the Necrons. We've then got, again, I need to avoid the Necrons, so I go down. They lead with Necrons for their second defender. And as you can see, I end up with Grey Knights, Necrons into CSM, which we feel is a good matchup, and then Dark Angels into Imperial Knights. No one ever plays Imperial Knights anymore, but we feel like with 20 Deathwing Knights, probably can probably put a dent into them. So we felt pretty happy here. And the game went well, as you can see. Photon beat World Eaters 16-4. Necrons beat the Marines 14-6. Eldari, we sweated and sweated for, I think it finished 96-92 to me for a draw. CSM 20 the Necrons. And Dark Angels won 16-4 against Imperial Knights, which led us to a 76-24 win. So yeah, feeling pretty good at this stage. And we draw round 4 into Vanguardians of the Galaxy. And again, this is a matrix which I think feels pretty good. I mean, from my perspective as an Eldar player, I don't know, some of you, those of you who watch this might be going, wow, this Eldar player doesn't really rate themselves. As I said, partly it's just my play style. I know I don't get big wins, but in this particular case, I've been playing Eldar since the start of 10th. I've never played into Orcs. I've never played into Imperial Guard. I've played like 1 game into 2 games into Tyranids. I don't know what his army does. It's a different style list. Chaos Knights, I've gone from anywhere from a 9-11 to a 15-5. So I want to play it safe and have that as a 3. And that's how I'm scoring my matrix. So again, we're looking at our options, and there are a few choices for us in terms of who we could put down as our first defender. I spoke about it with Jack from Omegon, who's very good at team pairings, and we kind of decided it would probably be best to be. So we could have put down Elder here and just taken off something that no one else wanted, but that feels like a bad use of Elder. So we decided to put down Votan, because they could potentially take away the Necrons, they could potentially take away the Chaos Knights, and that would be then good for our other people. So that's how we kind of went about it. They gave us, they put down CK as their first kind of drop. So we ended up with Votan into Necrons, and then we ended up with Chaos Knights into Eldari, which I'm like, well, at least I know how the game goes. We then dropped our CSM down next, and they dropped down Guard, which led to our CSM into Orcs, which we felt was a really good matchup for us. Paul was out for revenge, and this list had slightly less manticores, I believe, and he was keen to go get that 4, which led to our Necrons into their Nids, which we felt would be another win as well. So across the board, again, we've got 4 4s and a 3. According to our matrix, we've won our pairings, so we now need to try and make the most of it. So, do we do that? Yeah, we do. So Tom's able to really make the most. So this was a weird Necron list, right? It was double Monolith and Silent King. So we all kind of felt we could probably play into it. It was just, could you blap it? And Tom's obviously got a lot of shooting, and he dropped both Monoliths turn 2. So yeah, that's how that went. My game, my opponent played really defensively, and after turn 2, like, basically said, I'm just going to hide on my half of the board and try and deny you as big a win as possible. So it was a 12-8. CSM won 19-1. Dark Angels won 14-6. And the Necron Tyranid game was 10-10. This was a game where primary was hold 1, hold 2. This is priority targets, I think. And what was it? Scorched Earth. Scorched Earth. And it was just Ed, our Necrons player, just couldn't knock a Norn emissary at OBSEC 15 off the No Man's Land home field objective. And that kind of that just meant that he wasn't able to deny any primary, which led to just that game ending up in like a 87-85 or something similar like that. So yeah, that kind of went well. Felt pretty good about that. So we were 3-1, and we were going into our final game. We played into one of the South London Legion teams. And again, that matrix is a bit all over the place. Again, as an Eldar player, I've never played into Death Guard. I don't want to play into Eldar because he's got 3 spinners. CSM is a matchup I have played before. I hadn't played into Double Accursed before, but I kind of knew how to manage it. And it is a game I like playing. I just find it an enjoyable game. It's very tactical. Tyranids, it had just a bit more just chaffy stuff that I could kill, so I felt a bit happy with that. And again, I don't want to play into Necrons. But as you can see there, Dark Angels have got their triple spinner nemesis. They don't want to play into that. This is the one game I can actually tell you what everyone put down, and I might be able to offer some more thoughts as to why. So we put down Dark Angels in order to avoid that and see what he would take. And they led with Tyranids. Now, they said they led with Tyranids in order to basically put them under the bus. As you can see there, our matrix into Tyranids is quite good. The problem with doing that in 5-man teams is that if you give your opponent 2 great opportunities to get big wins, unless you are confident elsewhere, you're going to be able to get a big win yourself. You're bussing someone and you're having to play catch up big style, and that can be with only 4 other games. That can be really hard. So my general theory in a in 5-man teams, especially for the mid to upper mid tables, is you do not want to be throwing someone under a bus into a potential 20-0 because it can just be the end of your matchup, unless you are somehow very confident that you're going to be able to match it elsewhere. So as soon as they put two of these down, we're like, right, okay, which of our lists can get the biggest win? And we decide that Votan and CSM are our two best options. So we put them into their tunids, and they obviously put Eldar into Dark Angels, and then they put Necrons as well, which I think they had as a win. They had the Necrons into Dark Angels as a win. We had it as a draw. So for their matrix, they're putting 2 4s into Dark Angels, but we don't think it's a 4. We think it's a 3. So obviously the Dark Angels take the Necrons, and their Tyranids end up taking the CSM. Now, this next section pans out quite nicely, but not for any tactical good reason. As the Eldar player and as the pairings captain, at that point, I just kind of switch off to myself. I kind of just go, you know what, sod it. I'll play whatever. I'm playing Eldar. I won't get beaten big. I'll just take whoever. I don't care. My only important job is to try and get the Votan or the Necrons into something that they kind of want to play. I think probably me just being super ill at that point also played a part. Didn't have the mental willpower to dig deep into it. But it ended up working out well. I think we probably should have both led with our Eldari to avoid the Eldari Necron game. But that is not what happens. I have a choice of leading with Necrons or Votan. I can't honestly remember why. I think it was really close, but I ended up choosing the Necrons to lead with, which meant they led with Death Guard rather than Eldari, which meant that somehow we in this situation where our Necrons got to go to their Eldari, their Death Guard ended up into our Votan, and our Eldari ended up into their CSM. So that was actually a pretty spot on situation for us. Like, pairings genuinely couldn't have realistically gone any better. You know, our Eldar got a 3, our CSM got a 4, our Dark Angels got a 3 rather than a 4, our Votan got a 3 rather than a 4, our Necron got a 4. So it was pretty good time. Pretty happy with how that all went. If you think on any of these videos or any of these games you think I should have done things differently, like, please do put it in. I think it'd be interesting to hear. So yeah, again, for the 5th time, we've according to our matrix, we've won, which is always a nice place to start. We are so desperate and keen for that 4-1. You know, we've worked pretty hard on the build up. We really want that. We feel like it'd be good for us. So let's see how it went down. So my game into CSM gets off to the worst possible start. Firstly, I think I have to mulligan down to 9 fate dice, and I still only have I have 2 6s, a 5, and 6 1 2s and 3s. Like, it was awful, genuinely awful. For my final ever go as well. I know, poor Eldar player. Well, then he gets to go first as well, which means he could shove the accursed brick straight in my face if he wants to. He then decides to advance and charge his warp talons and rolls a 6, which means they're suddenly right by 2 of my characters, and he's chosen Assassinate. I'm like, oh, this is not good. I'm able to finagle it, so he just kills the Way Leaper that gets back up. And he doesn't actually push as far with the accursed as I thought he would. Kind of just hovers them in the midboard and tries to push down the flank with his chosen rhinos. I then have a pretty good turn back. I obviously kill those raptors. I kill most of an accursed brick in the middle. For some reason, he'd moved off his home field objective. I think he was really worried about double spinner killing his cultists at the backfield, which they just don't do mathematically. Um, so he moved off his objective, so the Incarn couldn't teleport onto it. But it meant I could fire and fade and flicker jump my warp spiders onto his home field for capture enemy outpost, which was and behind enemy lines. So it's like the perfect draw for me. And this my game was super swingy. Every turn, whoever's turn it was going like there were times in this game where I felt comfortable that I was probably going to get like a 85-70 win. And there were other points where I was genuinely considering, am I going to get to 50? Like, it was so all over the place. It's such a fun matchup to play. There's so many options, so much like trying to work things out. Unfortunately, my turn 2 and 3, I just whiffed on the turns where I focused on killing his chosen and his attacking threat. Just didn't quite work out. But my opponent was like genuine delight. I had so much fun. So the Eldar, we did lose that game 8-12. But as you can see from the rest, everything went really well. Dark Angels had a massive slog, as you'd expect, 20 Deathwing Knights into lots of Wraiths and Caesaris and stuff, but they won 11-9. RCSM got a nice comfortable win into the Tyranids, 17-3. As you'd expect, our Necrons beat their Eldar 15-5. They just dominated on primary. It was a hold 1-2-3. He just sat in the middle of the board and said, go on then. The Votan Death Guard was a 10-10. So that's the draw we wanted, which meant we ended up winning 61-39, which was in the end a bit more comfortable than we thought it would be, but we were really chuffed with that. So how did we finish overall? Well, my team of Iris, we actually managed to finish 7th, which was pretty awesome. So 7th out of 93 teams. Our only loss was that narrow loss to Tryhard. Now, Tryhard in their game 3 did 50 all draw with dice down and then won their next 2 games. And they ended up finishing 4th, I think. So, really well done to them. Omegon finished 28th, going 3-2. They had one game where they lost by like 1 or 2 points. And then they had to pair up into a Tryhard A team on Sunday morning. And Legion finished 55th with a bang average, just as we love it, 2-1-2. But they had a great time as well. So there we go. That is the road to the ITT Season 1 complete. Our next team event booked is the next ITT event in May. So what I might well do is another series on that if you guys are interested. If there are other things you'd like me to cover in terms of composing teams and building teams and preparing for teams, then please let me know. Let me know in the comments. Hope I'll be less ill next time. We'll also be doing a Road to the WTC series as well, as we focus on us working with Luxembourg, and that'll be an insight into like 8-man team events. So that'll be something a bit different. But we are starting to have a few more 8-man team events here in the UK. So hopefully that'll be like quite helpful for people. But yeah, other than that, thank you very much for watching. Please give us a like and a subscribe. Obviously, just the comments and the likes, they help the algorithm. They help us find our way onto more people's home screens. That means more like people are likely to want to watch our stuff. So thank you very much, and I will see you again very soon. Take care.